I'm Lou, joined again by our pal Denise Lash. Always a good story, our real estate lawyer.
Absolutely, Denise. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And we're going to talk, I sort of prompted you on the or was promoting you a little bit earlier on the show that you've got all these great stories that you can share with us. And really a lot of it has, like, the stories are great, except if it's happening to the person at the time, right? Yep. But it's good for buyers, particularly that are looking to get into the condominium market, to be very careful about what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know, is this going to be the place where you're going to live, or do you want to rent it out? Because we talked on the show earlier about investing. So a lot of people are buying smaller units, which are readily available, under 500 square foot, and they're buying them for investment. But investment is the term investment in real estate is starting to change a little bit now because we're investing differently. Mm-hmm. So at one time, it's very classic. You get a tenant, there's your tenant, and away you go to get a lease. Yeah. Now we have these short-term rentals such as Airbnb and others that are adding to the mix. So Denise, let's talk a little bit about that. What are you seeing, or what should people be mindful of, cautious of, aware of, as a buyer when you're going to buy, maybe with the intention of doing a short-term rental?
Yeah, now this is short-term rentals it's a big issue in condos recently. And we spend a lot of our time as lawyers dealing with this issue, and mainly because when people buy, like you said, Lou, as investors, they don't necessarily read the documentation. And the first thing you have to check when you're buying into a condo, and especially for investment purposes, is what are the terms for leasing? Because there are a lot of condominium corporations throughout Ontario that have restrictions on the length of term. Mm-hmm. And that would be, at least a 6-month or sometimes a year lease term, which means no short-term rentals are permitted. Mm-hmm. And then we have the City of Toronto, which is now they have the council's passed some regulations dealing with short-term rentals and who can do them. And those are under appeal right now, so we don't think we'll see a change in the City of Toronto until August of this year. But in that case, if those regulations come into effect, it essentially means that investors cannot use their units for short-term rentals, which is less than 28-day terms, in the City of Toronto. Mm-hmm. That only those people that live in their units as a principal residence will be able to do short-term rentals. And again, they can only do short-term rentals if there's no restrictions or limitations in their condo docs. Mm-hmm. It's a bit complicated.
Well, it's a bit complicated, and it certainly is a bit complicated because some people are still thinking, well, we're just going to go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, who's going to catch me?
Who's going to catch it, right, and who's going to police it and how they're going to do it. But you'd be surprised. So, I mean, it's like, yes, anybody can do whatever they wish. Is it the right thing? I don't necessarily think so. And you will be, at some point, it all sort of comes out anyway. So I caution anyone who's trying to do this sort of thing in a location or environment in a building where it's not allowed to really not do it. Go the standard route.
What happens if you get caught?
Well, so that's why I was saying we are busy these days. Like, I think maybe we're busy. We were busy with cannabis, but now we're busy. We've been busy for the past year and a half or so with short-term rentals. Owners can get very, very sneaky, and they think they can get away with it. So when they're placing their ads on, with Airbnb or whatever the provider is, they will deliberately tell people when they check in, or when they, get to the place, that not to go to the security desk, or, there are ways that they're trying to get around the restrictions. So there are a lot of people that buy these units and know they're not permitted to use them for short-term rentals, and they go ahead and they do it. And so what will happen is when they get caught, and they will get caught, they will get a letter from us, and they will be charged $500 to $600. It will continue, and they will continue to be charged as long as they continue to do this non-compliance behavior.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'm wondering if somebody, say if Lou was renting his condo for Airbnb, he just made up a false document. Now, this person here, Bill Smith, is staying for 28 days, but you're staying for 2. Who's going to know, right?
Well, there's an obligation under the Condominium Act that you provide the name of your tenant and provide a summary of the
Contact.
lease terms.
Yep. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. There's a whole bunch. That's actually fairly lengthy in terms of what's requirement. It's not just a little casual thing. And this is going to continue to be an ongoing issue as buildings create their own rules. The city of Toronto is going to have rules. People that are in the game can just many of them go, okay. Like there are too many rules. I can't keep track. So I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm either out or I'm in.
Yep.
But ultimately, look for buildings because there are buildings out there. And when you are buying, you can see the status certificate of the building, and the building will actually tell you what the lease terms are. Okay. So if it's one of those buildings that allows short-term rentals, it'll say it.
Oh, there's something else I should mention,
yes,
too.
please do.
Well, when the new regulations come into effect, and we're assuming that they will, tenants can also do short-term rentals. So you may rent to your tenant, and then I'm just assuming that in this case the building would permit short-term rentals. Mm-hmm. So you can rent to a tenant that you think is a year lease, and that tenant can sublet or rent out one of their bedrooms on a short-term rental basis.
No, thanks.
So that will be permitted by the City of Toronto. So when these regulations come into place, what it essentially do is get rid of the investor who has bought their unit for short-term rentals. Investors will now have to at least have terms of more than 28 days.
Okay, so it is going to get pretty confusing for a lot of people. So again, if you need this information and you need the advice, you need the help, feel free to reach out to me and we'll connect you with Denise and the entire real estate law team, and we can take it from there.
Thanks, Denise. Appreciate it once again. We'll catch you on the next show for sure. 416-705-1444 and reach out to connectwithlou.com. More Real Estate SOS is on the way on Global News Radio.